We are live and it's week 42 of What Did Prince Do This Week? Cassandra Bradley was first in the chat, followed by Anna B. But unfortunately, StreamYard has this new feature where it's kicking people out when we start the stream in terms of the previous comments. Come on in, come on in. Today is a very special day.
Love it.
Why is it a special day? Because we have a very special guest who will be joining us later. The one and only, there will never be another, Atlanta Bliss.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can't wait. We're going to be talking about his brand new book called Mind, Body, and Trumpet.
It's in the book.
It's in the book. That's right. Where's everybody? I don't see anybody. So, here we go. I was about to say, is nobody commenting? Okay, here we go. Maybe it's still a StreamYard glitch. We got TP. Happy Saturday, Purple Fam. Missed a couple of weeks, but I'm caught up on my reading and glad to be back with the fam. Welcome back, TP. We got D68A. I'm so glad that you're here, D68A, because I wanted to ask you, because I didn't have time to do that this week. Do we have any rehearsals from October 1984 from this week, starting around October 14th for this week? Please let me know.
That's the part right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Now that's how you start a show.
Yeah. So
Am I like too loud or something? I feel like I'm like.
No, you sound good to me.
Okay.
It's
You
lit.
sound good to me. All right.
Yeah, you sound good to me. And it seems like we're not getting our Facebook people on like the comments. So StreamYard is doing some.
I see some Facebook comments in there.
Do you?
Yeah, Kim.
I'm not seeing them.
Chuck is on Facebook.
That's so weird. You're gonna have to. I'm not seeing any Facebook on my end. That's so weird.
Right there. You see that one on the screen?
Yeah, I see it, but I don't see it in the comments. I'm gonna refresh. Let me see what happens when I refresh.
Well, while she's refreshing, let me say good morning to everybody across the world. Welcome on in. As she said, we're going to have special guests today.
Yes, I definitely needed to refresh.
Now you can see it?
Yeah, now I can see it. Before I was like, what is going on? This isn't right.
So you just did the first half of the Love Sexy show. Now you're on your I know.
Yes, I'm on my I know. Yeah.
You crossed the line. That's how you crossed the line.
I've crossed the line. That's right. So now I actually see Cassandra Bradley. That's so weird. And Cassandra is going to see Stevie tonight. And I think Kim is here because I know Kim has already seen Stevie Wonder. So Kim, I wanted to know, did Corey Henry perform with Stevie Wonder, or did he open for Stevie Wonder, or did he open and perform with Stevie Wonder? That's what I want to know, because he posted on the interwebs and I wasn't quite sure what he meant by he was touring with Stevie Wonder. So I'm super excited that Corey Henry is with Stevie to put some gas in his tank so he can keep doing what he does. And obviously Stevie Wonder is a legend. And thank you so much, Christina, for your email. You know what you did. I really, really appreciate it. Haven't had time to attend to it yet, but I'm so happy that you went to the St. Paul birthday party last night. I think St. Paul turned 60, if I'm correct. And
Oh, wow.
our main man, Eric Leeds, was performing with St. Paul.
Interesting.
Michael Dean, this is when I wish I had made different choices in life where I could just jet off to Minneapolis, whatever I wanted.
Go to the 60th anniversary of St. Paul.
Yeah.
Boy, if you didn't start that show, if I was a rich man.
Oh my God, I really, really wish. And we got Tanja. All right, now I'm seeing everything. Okay, we got Lisa Williams, we got Lee Christian, we got Andre Staley from sunny Detroit. Andre wanted some fall weather, but I'll take the sun today. I'm all about the sun, Andre. I like it hot.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like the fall, or definitely not the winter.
Well, if I heard that tonal inflection of I like it hot.
I do when it comes to Michael Dean. I get excited about the weather, and I really get excited about heat. Being from Alabama, I suffer from SAD, so I feel some kind of way about. SAD is seasonal affection, affective disorder.
Something else.
Yeah, it brings you down. It gives you the blues when there's no sunshine. So we got Mooches with Sunshine Through Vanity. Always nice to see Vanity. And we have Laura from Romania. Blessed Saturday. Welcome.
What's
that?
We got
Myron Scott. Hey, hey.
What up, man?
Raywin.
What's up, Raywin?
All right. So Raywin is telling us that today is the anniversary of the Prince self-titled album, Prince. 1979 with the single I Want to Be Your Lover. I want to be your lover. Country music.
And that album is crazy, man.
It is. All of them are. Yeah, StreamYard. Yeah, they're making changes.
Hilarious. I just got what he was saying there. StreamYard. Stream it on. StreamYard.
And we got Drea Dances, happy birthday, a beautiful day. Happy birthday. I saw happy and beautiful. Happy, beautiful day here in the Shy. We got Leo Montagna. We got King's Wildlife Adventure. Play that Madhouse. That's right.
There you go, Kings.
I don't think we've seen you in the chat. If this is your first time, thank you so much for joining us. And we love Madhouse. We love that you love Madhouse. Madhouse forever. And then we also have Chuck. Thank you so much for what you sent today.
What up, yeah.
Really appreciate that. But you know,
what I already knows you.
Yeah.
You had me singing this morning, Chuck.
We have Man Ray 10. Also, happy 45th anniversary to the Prince second album. Oh, thank you so much, Nick. Nick said hello to my two favorite people.
What's up, Nick?
Oh, wow. Kim is from a secondary location. So, Kim, did you hear my question about Corey Henry? What was his involvement with the Stevie Show? Because I know you're going again tonight because that's how you do. And let's see. Okay. All right. So D68, thank you so much. And letting me know. So I'll be on the lookout for those. We got Sister Charles from Houston.
Houston. I'm gonna be in Texas tomorrow.
What?
Up in the Dallas area, though.
Have you been before?
A long time ago. Actually, yeah, it was long. I feel like the last time I went was actually when I don't know if I met him, but I saw Soul Jazz Cafe. What's my name?
Jason Orr?
Jason Orr was at this thing that I went to the last time, but this time I'm going for work.
Oh, okay. I've never been to Dallas or to Texas for that matter, actually. But
I got family in Houston. That's why I got triggered when I saw.
Nice. I didn't realize that you got family in Texas, in H-Town.
That's why I first heard Prince was in Texas.
Nice.
Yeah,
everything is connected.
1981.
Wow.
Anyway.
Nice. No, that's not it anyway. That's important. Being introduced to Prince. We got my dear friend Clarissa James. Where are you, my world traveler? Are you in Minneapolis? Did you go see St. Paul last night? Oh, thank you. So Corey
I
Henry
think she did.
in the band.
I
You
think
think
she
so?
said she had dinner with Monty. If I'm not mistaken in the chat.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go. Right
I'm
here.
going. Nice. Oh, Christina. I was saying the meaning Clarissa.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, Clarissa, because Clarissa is, I don't know, it's not bicoastal.
Don't
Don't know how you say that. Let's see. I'm trying to do this really quickly. I want to say hello to everyone. So Blade Brown, El Dabara, AJJ132. Welcome, Ricky. Let's see. I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
Give
Come
me
on
a
in,
second.
Rick.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll send it to you. Let's see. Anniversary. Okay. So Stevie didn't have an opener in Philly. Thank you so much. What? I did not know this. Did you know
Okay. I didn't, but now I do. And
Okay.
knowing is half the battle.
Yes, it is, Michael Dean. So Kim is from Fort Worth, Texas. You learn something new every single day. And we got Realign the DJ.
Realign the DJ. I like that name.
Yes, it's a cool name. And I always love that there is an album avatar. And that's always nice. And then we have Karan here. And then Dr. Claus saying, strangely though, I was thinking about how Michael Dean first heard controversy when Texas was a topic.
That's right. Yeah. The infamous grandma ripping the controversy poster. What is this?
Yes. Okay. Let me see. I can't do two things at one time. Ricky, I'll send it to you later. Just give me some time. All right. So let's do some housekeeping really quickly. Okay. Well, that'll do it. I forgot I actually, never mind, I'm talking to myself. Okay, so we are week 42 of What Did Prince Do This Week? This is a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series. And I think everybody knows, except we do have some new people today. It's also, in addition to What Did Prince Do This Week, it is a Saturday salon echoing the spirit of the Harlem Renaissance. And that's when you just come together with like-minded individuals in the arts to talk about all sorts of things. So we talk about more than just Prince, but mostly music and sometimes a little film every now and then. Every Saturday at noon, Eastern Standard Time or whatever Eastern Time, I'll just say it like that. And we're going week to week, not date to date. And that'll make sense one day for some. And then you will follow this detailed schedule at this bit.ly link or QR code. You do not need the expanded edition, but this is what we are reading. And you know it's expanded when you got the blue type, the blue light type. Yes.
Like
oh, look at that.
Apart.
This is where we are, everybody. And do you see that book, the bookmark?
Yeah.
Don't have that much more to go. And then we're going to be on to the next one. And I am super, super, super excited.
Duane, I need a new copy, man. Come on now. This is ridiculous.
Yes, that's Christina saying, hold them up. I know some of you guys are holding yours up. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chuck. I really appreciate the detail. Corey played keys for Stevie in Philly. Yay. All right.
These are the days of reading. Put them up.
Wow. And Tanja is saying the Obamas did Stevie's intro. Corey was just in the band, no opener in Baltimore. That's how you open a concert. Thank you for that information. Again, I love how we come together every week because I just learn all sorts of things that I normally wouldn't know because of all of you. All right. So these will be archived at Polished Solid as well as at MDean. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word. Not for me, not for Michael Dean, but for
do it for me. Now do it for me. Damn that.
But we're really doing this for Prince. This is the reason why we're doing this, just to spread the word and the love and to show how hard Prince worked every week. And I think that's really important, and that it wasn't magic. He worked really, really hard. And oh, thank you so much, Lee Christian. Yes. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who tunes in every week. And this is our hashtag WDPDTW for Why Do People Dance This Weird? That is the email if you want to send us something. We're on the cusp of the Purple Rain tour, so I'm hoping you guys will send us tickets and photos and all that jazz. And the estate of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected with the What Did Prince Do This series, book club series. And welcome, Arlene. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And let's get into it. So I actually didn't play this song, but I'm going to play it since I wanted to. It's my favorite Atlanta Bliss song. I don't know, for some of you might not have been there, but I have this CD. It's a CDR. We talked about that. So I'll play this in the background. And it also has our dear Eric Leeds on tenor, sax, and keyboards. And Atlanta Bliss will be joining us later in the hour. So don't go nowhere. Love this song. It's called Space and Time. It's really funky. And if you like it, you can actually buy it directly from Atlanta Bliss, from his shop online, atlantabliss.com/shop. And you can also buy his brand spanking new book. That's why he's coming to talk to us today. All right.
Man, I'm getting like a real dope 70s movie soundtrack, you know.
Yeah.
You got the stuff, man. Jimmy took it. Well, damn, Jimmy, man, where's my stuff, man? Dope.
All right, Ricky, I just sent you a link. Okay. To your email. All right, so we're week 42, episode number 93 of What Did Prince Do This Week? What we know.
This is tight right here.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
That's why another version more has come around. The things are okay, but we could be doing so much. Like a girl group.
I love that. Like a girl's group. That's one of my favorite lines.
Give me that there on your boot.
That's right. Okay. So this is what we're going to be talking about for this week. You see, we got rehearsal every day. And then on Sunday, there was a Around the World in a Day mix. Yes. And yes, it's so great to see that they are for sale. I'm so excited that you too can listen to this whenever you want without me talking on top of it. How's that? All right. So we got a rehearsal and we're going to go to our books. We're going to go to page 436. So on Sunday, October 14th, 1984.
Well, you may have to turn the music. I can't focus.
It's okay. We'll just let it play out because we got Ricky joining us.
What up, Big Rick?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's up? Thank you for joining us. We always love it when you are here with us.
Love being here with y'all.
That's right.
Yo, what you sipping on, man? I don't look like just some juice. It look like a little something extra.
Powerade, brother, Powerade. Let me learn.
All right. The music's still going. I'm going to fade it out so it's not distracting, even though it's a fantastic
Oh,
song.
let's go.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So again, you can buy this if you want, atlantabliss.com/shop. That's where you can go. All right, Chad.
Good stuff to know.
Chad said, saw Prince play at the Met Center for the Love Sexy Show and the St. Paul Civic Center for Purple Rain and one off new tour show. So, Chad, when it's time for us to talk about that St. Paul Civic Center Purple Rain show, you're welcome to come on if you want to talk about your experience. Just make sure you mute yourself when you're doing your headphone because it comes off like really, really loud. Just FYI.
Thank you for letting me know that. Sorry.
No worries. Okay. All right. And then if you don't mind, I'm going to mute you, Ricky, just so you know, because it's really, really loud on our end. Anytime you
You got that old school Xbox 360 headphone.
Yeah.
yeah, it really makes
Y'all playing Halo tonight?
Hey, I'll keep the vintage stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on mute because even when you move, I don't know what's going on with it because it normally doesn't sound like this. Even when you're moving, we can hear like noise.
Okay.
So, all right. So I'm going to mute you. Okay. So we're going to get into our reading for today. We don't have a lot of reading. And also we want to talk to Atlanta Bliss for as long as we possibly can. So, okay, Chad, thank you for letting me know. December 26th. Awesome. First Prince concert. That's a good one to have for a first Prince concert. Nice. Okay. So we're going to turn to our books to page 436. And it's going to just fly by today because we don't have a lot to read. And we got Sunday, October 14th, and there's a rehearsal at St. Paul Civic Center, St. Paul, Minnesota. And that was from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. That is a very long rehearsal.
Wait, that didn't even dawn on me. 10 a.m.
Yes.
To 12? What?
Yeah.
That's brutal.
That's pretty brutal.
And there's no notes. That's the cold part is ain't no notes.
No notes. Yeah.
Lord, I can only imagine what that was.
Boy, jokers were focused. It was.
Yeah.
Damn, I hope they didn't play Body Heat the whole time. I hope they play some other songs.
We going on this for 8 hours. Give me 45. Lord.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Oh my God. So LW is saying, wonder if that rehearsal is on the tapes that Dr. Fink is selling at the auction.
Hilarious.
Oh my God. So Michael Dean, remember when I said that I wish I would have made different choices in life so I could just buy and compete against Questlove because I know that's going to be one of the major. I can't compete. I don't have that kind of dollars.
I mean, who would have ever thought, they would be auctioning for? Yeah, you'd have said that back in the day. I was like, get the hell out of here. There's no way.
Hey, I mean, do you guys think it's like some unreleased stuff? Because man, because Prince was known for giving them copies of the albums and he'd learn this. So like I'm thinking a few of those tapes are probably just the albums.
That I would think too, the rehearsal stuff, because I think they said there were rehearsals in there. I bet you I would love to hear those rehearsals and maybe try to piece like what little jams turned into songs later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, that was when they first kind of was doing this. And I would love to be able to take a deep listen and just listen to the hours on hours of like this rehearsal, like just probably so many different things they was trying out and doing throughout that,
So I haven't had an opportunity to look at what's for auction because the work has been pretty brutal for me. So Chuck, I really appreciate you letting us know that one of the tapes was labeled as rough mixes for the Dirty Mind album. That would be incredible.
That would be dope.
Tanja, I'm sure there are some gems there.
Hey, look, maybe the estate should just buy the tapes and clean them up and put this stuff out. But they probably wouldn't do that though.
I mean, yeah, no. They got so much stuff already, and they ain't put out. So I mean, it is what it is. I wish it could be there, but who knows? Maybe the person who buys it will donate it after, because in the description it says it has everything on MP3 and like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all digitized too.
Yes, it's all digitized.
Man, so maybe some Madhouse rehearsals in there.
But salute to Dr. Fink. I ain't mad at you. You're like, shoot.
Yes.
Get my bag.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's business.
yeah,
Because he got you can get the suit. The doctor's suit is for auction.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if it. So I mean, like, shoot, they had that on your wall. Like, what? Yeah, man, that's Dr. Fink. Doctor. The spirit of that sitting right there on the wall.
and I do think that there is some Rebel material in that collection too, right? The Rebels. Yep. So but I just want to highlight Tanja's comment because I think this is really important to understand that artists have to set themselves up for retirement. So I mean, living is so expensive these days, and it's getting more and more expensive. So
for sure. Or if he just wants to trick it off, ain't nothing wrong. That's his stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do what he want to do with it.
Oh my goodness!
Ooh,
Look,
wee.
look,
Well, we have
Ooh, wee.
our
Welcome.
favorite cover girl.
Yes.
Let
We
me
actually
start simping in here.
We love you, Manisa, so much. We love all of the amazing covers you did for Madhouse. It's such a pleasure to have you in the chat.
Our favorite cover girl is here.
Yeah, the original. Woo!
Yes. And still beautiful to this very day. I was able to meet Manisa at one of the Paisley Purple brunches. So it was such a pleasure to meet you. Yes,
what's up?
we do love you very much.
Wow.
Hey, look, maybe you ought to have her on one day to talk about some.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on. You're welcome anytime you'd like to come on. We love to talk to you because we play Madhouse a lot on What Did Prince Do This Week. So anytime you have an open invitation, we'd love to have you. All right. So let me start reading for the second, and we're on page 436, and we're going to read about Around the World in a Day mix on Sunday, October 14th, 1984. Estimate, Flying Cloud Drive Warehouse, Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Producer Prince, artist Prince, engineer Susan Rogers assumed. This is a Prince quote that's bolded. Thank you, Duane. I really love that feature. As I was coming into my own persona and understanding of who I was, I never talked down to my audience. And when you don't talk down to your audience, they can grow with you. And I give them a lot of credit to be able to hang with me this long because I've gone through a lot of changes, but they've allowed me to grow. And thus we can tackle some serious subjects and try to just be better human beings, all of us. Prince. The one part of this quote from Prince that really sticks out for me is that his audience, has allowed me to grow. And I think that if you are a Prince fan that was with him from the beginning until the end, you understood that Prince was constantly growing and changing and that he was never stuck anywhere musically. So I really love this quote. And yes, love Sexy 71. We also love all of the Madhouse videos that Manisa was in for sure. And
Definitely.
yes. All right. So Prince continued to place a great deal of energy into artistic growth, and part of that was getting his next album done properly. He continued to work on mixing the title track for his next album, working hard to make it the anti-Purple Rain and hopefully keep people guessing about where he'd go next. I think there was a part of him that was beginning to fear that his artistic integrity would be compromised, explained Alan Leeds. And I think this is a really important comment. And I'm going read this. I normally wouldn't, but we don't have a lot of reading this week. So, and some critics were even beginning to say, hey, man, you've got an entourage now. You're up there with Elvis. I suppose we've heard the end of your art, Mr. Rockstar. So it was his way of telling people, I'm not turning back on the music. I didn't sell out. I'm going to do something that I consider artistically honest, that is not contrived to fit a format. I'm not writing for a movie. I'm not writing to duplicate a hit song and say I want another song like Purple Rain or another song like Little Red Corvette. I'm just going to let the music flow, be totally honest. And if this weird record, hopefully the fans I've assembled in the last 2 years with Purple Rain in 1999, will follow me on this weird little path while we go explore these crazy little songs that struck my fancy. And I don't really think it's any more than that. So if I'm reading this correctly, this is Alan Leeds basically kind of speaking for Prince. So these weren't like words directly from Prince in this little bit. Okay, once again, Prince has Susan Rogers set up for an additional mix for Around the World in a Day. That was the mix that ended up on the record, she explained. Because we're used to sitting in the warehouse and going quickly and flying by the seat of our pants, when I say we mixed it together, I'll be specific. Prince would often say, I'm going to mix such and such, get it started for me and I'll come in, which meant that I would EQ the individual instruments. I would do processing on them, any limiters and gates for the musicians out there. I would get sounds on the basic instruments, which he may or may not change later, but I would get the basic sounds. He would come in and do the blend. Prince seemed very happy with the new mix, but not everyone around him shared the sentiment. Once again, sax player Eric Leeds disagreed with the new sound. I said that I always missed the fact that the rhythm section wasn't there on the released version. And I kind of said it in a challenging way. And he just said, hey, that's how I heard the song then. And I know how that is.
Interesting.
And no official documentation has surfaced to verify when the session occurred, but it has been referenced by other sources as a possible date for mixing of Around the World in a Day. There is a possibility that was mixed on the afternoon of Saturday, October 20th. So do you two have anything you want to say about, thank you so much, Nick, that the quote from Prince is from the Chris Rock interview from 96, where he was talking about his audience is growing with him.
The only thing I can say now, just looking back at it from a distance now, it's interesting that Prince saw himself in this situation of, not wanting to feel like he's doing the same thing as before, I guess, or following up with the obvious, I guess, easy path to go, which is interesting looking at it to me now, because I don't feel like all his other albums, did they seem to follow some sort of method or expectation of what they sounded like when they first came out? And I guess because now the world is watching him, maybe he feels like the expectation thing is so big now that sort of affects his artistic, process, or in terms of why I'm doing this album, why I'm making this music. Because almost like, this starts a period of him almost kind of, I don't know, second guessing is, I guess, maybe just being more affected by his success than before, where I don't know if his earlier albums did that weigh so much on the process of why he was doing things. And maybe it always did, like they were made because of this situation. But it, just seems like after this, he goes into the parade, and when you start to think of the Black Album and Sign of the Times, like again, the question of am I Black enough or something, like which seems absurd now, but that was like what was sort of guiding that process. And it all sort of seems to come from, this is the beginning of that, like, yo, do you still have it, or are you going to just do the easy route? Like, it's just weird that that's the thing that sort of is driving some of these decisions for the next few years. To feel like I wish he could just have been comfortable, like, yo, this is what I am, like I'll do whatever, it's not that big a deal, I'm always doing whatever. So it's just interesting that this starts that kind of phase in him where it's like the reaction of the success,
Well, there's this concept called the golden handcuffs. Have you ever heard of that term? So Purple Rain was Prince's golden handcuffs. And if he was anyone but Prince, it probably would have been his golden handcuffs. And for those of you who don't know what golden handcuffs means, it means that you're either making so much money or you're so popular that you don't want to do anything that will rock the boat, and you want to, stay at that level. So I think the reason why it kept coming up is that other artists who were in similar situations as Prince would often sort of double down on their sound, to ride that wave, for as long as possible. So just because of previous artists, and that Prince followed in terms of reaching those kinds of heights, I think they were trying to make Prince into a pop star. When Prince really wasn't a pop star, he was a musician first and foremost. So I think that's, what was happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think
what is he?
too. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. So what is he saying? Don't play me. So I've been to the mountaintop, and it ain't what you say.
Mm.
I think that was one of those moments. Also, I think, he's still relatively 26, 27. So as just, like all of us, like you're growing as an adult, and I think he was definitely growing as like a musician. So, having being exposed to, some, you could tell like earlier on with Andre and Terry and Jimmy and all them around, that was a certain type of vibe and stuff that was coming out of that, hanging with those guys and jamming, say with them. And then he, like Eric comes into the fold, that opens up, some stuff and kind of allows him to kind of do some different things. And of course, like Wendy and Lisa may have, exposed him to like some stuff. So I think he was just growing just as a musician. And as he's growing, he's kind of just expressing that. And I'm kind of glad because, being on the train at that time, man, I mean, man, you definitely, if you get nothing else out of being a Prince fan, you definitely get like musical growth because no album sounds the same like the previous one. And so having being on a Purple Train, that allowed, I know me personally,
That Purple Train. I love
yeah.
that.
So it just allowed me and my ears, man, to be open to like some other stuff because he was always changing. And so, like, with Around the World in a Day, I mean, see, in real time, it was totally left. It was totally left with Purple Rain, but it was also totally left of what was out at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, especially because I think at this point, so the Minneapolis sound was
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that was the sound.
it was the sound. It was considered, man, say the money maker. And
Right.
so he totally, like with that album was totally not what you would deem the Minneapolis sound
Mm.
of what was popular like at that time. So
Yeah. That's I was gonna bring that up, and and when you think of the different sounds that sort of capture the culture at a particular time, like Prince's sound, that was that sound. Like you could be a band or another artist, and you were gonna mimic that sound to success, right? Like you was gonna be ready for the world. Jesse Johnson took that and ran with it. Shit, Janet Jackson takes Minneapolis sound and turns it into the whole thing. And it's interesting that the guy who creates that abandons it and goes totally left. And it makes me think of like, what if like a Teddy Riley, like to me, like his sound became the next sort of dominant sound that dominated hip hop and rap, New Jack Swing. But what if he would have just abandoned it at its height and went
yeah.
totally left? It'd have been very interesting to see what would have happened. But what happens when the guy who creates the movement just completely left fields it, right? I don't know if we've ever really seen something like that before. What if Dr. Dre would have said, "Nah, maybe he almost kind of tried to do that. Like, okay, I'm not doing gangster rap no more. That's the sound of the day. I'm gonna go over here and do what was that one song he had, Been There, Done That, or something."
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that field, and again, sort of met the same kind of audience reception. Like, oh, that's dope, but
Yeah.
we want to hear that, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, because that. I mean, it's funny you said it because when he abandoned it, it seemed like Jesse and Jam and Lewis kind of kept the torch for
They
going,
ran. Yeah.
ran with it for like I don't know 3-4 more years. Say before they kind of like, I wouldn't say they just abandoned it. I just think it just times changed and New Jack Swing came in.
Yeah, it was just what I'm saying. It would have been interesting. Like, what if Prince would have stayed on that, like, and really dominated and just said, like, he was producing other songs for other people. Like Sugar Walls obviously has that sound, right? So he wasn't afraid to give that sound to somebody else. But I guess you could kind of see where his sound was maybe shifting because he's doing the Manic Mondays, starting to kind of go into that kind of vibe. And maybe he's not doing. So if you go to Prince to get a record at that point, you want to get that Minneapolis, but he gonna give you the next stuff. He's like, no, here, sing on this, and they be like, oh, this is great, but I wanted the but I ain't on that. So I was just saying,
yes, I wanted the grease.
Yeah, what if he would have stayed on and was like, okay, I know what you want. My records ain't gonna be that, but you want that classic, just to keep it. That's what I'm saying. Like if Teddy would have said, "Nah, I'm not doing that," and Michael came to him and was like, "Okay, I want to do, I want to do Dangerous." And, well, nah, I'm doing rock now, Mike. Like rock tracks. But that's what Prince. That's why we love Prince. Like he's like, yeah, I'm going a totally different direction with it. Which I question sometimes. I don't think it was that different when I listen to it now. I don't bat an eye at Around the World in a Day or some of the songs, and they just sound like Prince at that time. Like but in the moment they seem very different.
Yeah.
But then you'd be like, Purple Rain, Pop Life was made back when Purple Rain was doing Purple Rain. How different was it really? You know what I'm saying? Just,
well, I mean, you got to ask yourself: would you classify like She's Always in My Hair as like a Minneapolis sound and tune, or is that? I mean, it's clearly of the Around the World like in the Day era, but because it was cut, I mean, like you said, during the time,
see,
like Purple Rain and all that type stuff.
I think it has to expand what we think Purple Rain era really sounds like versus when we heard the song.
Yeah,
like, I think the Purple Rain era really is all of that Around the World in a Day because that's when it was made, but we just heard it after the fact. So yeah. So he really was already doing all that kind of stuff. I guess maybe he just understood too. I know when to put out certain things at certain times, what signals to shift. Maybe it's too early to put this song out because this gonna be for the next one. It's that's why you hold on to a Pop Life like that. Like, yeah, I could drop that, but let me hold that for the next run. That's gonna be the bust. That'll be the head buster if the other stuff don't work. I know this song. This gonna kill them regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. We just.
It's okay. So we're going to get through these rehearsals with the quickness because Atlanta Bliss is going to be joining us very, very soon. And
love the rehearsals.
Yes, and we love the rehearsals. So Monday, October 15th, 1984, there was a rehearsal again at St. Paul Civic Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. On Tuesday, the same thing, October 16th. On Wednesday, the same thing, October 17th. On Thursday, October 18th, the same thing, St. Paul Civic Center. And then Friday, October 19th, same thing. But there is a quote from Matt Fink that Duane has for Friday. Some of the funniest moments we had were at rehearsal. During some breaks, we would joke around and make up skits and silly songs. Lisa is the perfect olive oil to my Popeye. While we were on tour, we would all go out to dinner together, take in an occasional movie, or go to after-show parties. By the way, Prince never cooked and served us pancakes after playing basketball with him. Maybe he only did that for guests. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
And after this rehearsal, the entire Purple Rain stage was taken down, loaded on the trucks, and moved from St. Paul Civic Center back to the Met Center in Bloomington. And then on Saturday, there was a rehearsal at the Met Center in Bloomington, Minnesota, from 7 p.m. until 12 a.m.
Yeah, not too long.
Yeah, not too long. All right. So I'm going to take us on our music break really quickly, and then we'll hopefully talk with Atlanta. And so this is what Corey Henry posted on one of his socials. So this is Corey Henry on tour with Stevie. And it made sense that he was playing with Stevie because I have never seen Corey surrounded by so many keyboards at the same time. He usually has like a 2-3 set up. And Bilal is also on tour. And in fact, he's going to be at the Dakota in Minneapolis very, very soon. So definitely go support Bilal. Hopefully someone saw him at Atlanta at Sitting Room Winery. I would love to hear a report if you did that. And then obviously at the Blue Note, there is Robtober, I call it Robtoberfest until November 3rd, 2 nights, 2 shows every night. So that's been going on for a while. Really looking forward to Andre 3000 at BAM, Brooklyn, October 25th and 26th. Also, Andre 3000 at Atlanta, Fox Theater. There's going to be a tribute to funk at NJPAC featuring Bilal, Nona Hendrix, Christian McBride, Savion Glover, Vernon Reed, and the one and only George Clinton. This is a do not miss performance. You don't see this every day. NJPAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center. And then Corey Henry will be at the Blue Note in December from 3rd to the 8th. All right, so I'm super, 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 super excited that we have our very special guests with us. And the one and only, there will never, ever be another, Atlanta Bliss. Welcome.
Right.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Right.
Of course.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
And
you guys do some great work. I got to tell you first off, what you do with your historical things and doing this every week and going back every how much research you have to do. That's amazing. And thank you for your, as being one that you, I guess, somewhat look into, being with Prince. Thank you for your work and your recognition. That's very nice of you, of all of you.
well, thank you for your work. That's
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
There's a lot coming from you. Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, it's all about you. We are here because of you. We love your music. We love your contributions to Prince. And just so you know, actually, my husband shared this with me that you gave this to him, Atlanta
Great.
Bliss. And we actually played a little bit of Space and Time earlier,
Yeah.
because that's one of
Yeah.
my favorite tracks. And I want to ask you about that later. But before we get started, we are here because Matt has a brand new book, which is awesome, called Mind, Body, Trumpet. And you can get it from atlantabliss.com/shop. That's how you get it. And let me pull up. I do have some slides that I wanted to. I also want to promote really quickly that Atlanta, because we're going to run out of time and we might not be able to cover everything I want, but I want to talk a lot. But Atlanta Bliss is also going to be on Funkatopia on Tuesday. So if you want more Atlanta Bliss, you can tune in to that. And I would want you to be aware of that. And then also, again, the website.
Who's that cat right there?
Hey, well, you're doing it for me. You're a great marketing person. Thank you.
Well, we want you to sell as many copies as possible because one, it's a great book, and we're going to get into the book. But I just wanted to, make sure people know where they can actually purchase so they can have their own copy, and hopefully they will actually buy copies for aspiring musicians that they might be around, because I think it's really important that our youth continue to play real instruments. We actually, Matt, last week, I think it was last week, Michael Dean, that we had that conversation about real instruments versus what I call push button musicians. And there's nothing wrong with push button musicians, but I was just saying how there's a different feel when you actually have a musician playing an acoustic instrument like a trumpet, like a saxophone, like drums.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there actually is, because you can do so much more with it, so much more flexibility with the tones, with the intonation. it's more personal than a keyboard. Everyone that picks up a trumpet has their own sound. And same thing with a saxophone player and guitar player. Yeah, they make their sound out of the guitar that they want. And but when you play trumpet, it's all with your embouchure and how big your mouth is. That really does make a difference on the sound of what you get out of the instrument. So it is more personal than a keyboard, electronic. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Thank you for recognizing that. That's nice of you.
Yes, but actually, while we're talking about it, I kind of go. I had an order, but I'm going to break that order. In reading your book, because I wanted to ask you, one, when were these songs recorded from this? I call it EP, Rainforest and Secret Garden, Space and Time, number one. And then I also wanted to ask, on the back of this, there's some credits, but I was wondering, did all these musicians play on all three songs? We had
That was a long time ago, so I don't know who was on those. Who do I have written on those?
And so you have Atlanta Bliss with electric trumpet. You have Eric Leeds, tenor sax and keyboards, H.B. Bennett drums, Marty Koffler guitar, Jerry Malega, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, electric piano, and Mike Hulis bass. Yeah, that was a band that Eric and I had, an HB. We played around Pittsburgh. It was called Taking Names. And we had that performance of Space and Time was actually when we ended our band, that was the last time we played that song. And we did record it, obviously, that day. And that's on my website. I have a couple people ask me a lot, when are you going to do an album? Well, I haven't done an album, but I do have those couple, 3 songs that are on my website. There you go, right there. And you can record, you can get them. There's only 2. I don't have Secret Garden on there yet, but Eric and I actually just met and talked, and we might put some of the Taking Names things up there. People ask us about, what has happened, what we played before Prince. So we might put some of that stuff up on there too. But those band members were from Taking Names, yes, and that was back in the 70s. Wow. I might even have a date on that. I don't know. Wow. So the runner. That Rainforest, and those other 2 songs were recorded. Let's see, that was in the early 90s, and that was with a studio that Albert Burroughs had, a very good friend of mine, who actually turned out, and I think he still is, the sound engineer, the house mixer for Morris Day in that time. Oh, wow. And yeah, he's a great guy. Interesting. Great musician.
Can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
I just want to take it back, man. Like, what was it like? And I don't know what year this was, or when you got the call from Eric. It's like, yo, we're Prince. But I actually want to know, what was the first time you walked in? Was it a rehearsal space or the studio where you actually played with Prince? What was that? What was that like?
Yeah, good question. Well, actually, let me back up all the way. I was living in Atlanta at the time. Eric was living with my wife, Marianne, and Eric was living with us. I'm going to sort of jump ahead. Eric had got the gig with Prince playing on the end of the Purple Rain tour. He would come out and play solos during that time. So after that, I think Prince asked him, well, do you know a trumpet player that I'd like to add for the Revolution? So he said, well, I happen to know one. Eric and I played together forever. We went to Pittsburgh, we went to college together, et cetera, et cetera. So he called me up, and I was living in Atlanta. Hadn't played in 6 months, probably. And Eric called and he said, hey, you're booked tomorrow on a flight with Prince, on a flight to do an audition with Prince tomorrow. I said, tomorrow? I haven't played in 6 months. This should be interesting. So I went downstairs, pulled out my trumpet, oiled the valves, said a lot of prayers, and I said, if it's to be, it's to be. So started practicing, and Eric called back. He said, hey, man, sorry, the audition is off. I said, well, nothing gained, nothing lost, and he said, it's not an audition, it's a recording session. I said, oh, hey, a recording session with Prince, and I'm playing 6 months. Well, that's what happened. We flew up the next day. I flew up the next day, and it turned out to be Wendy and Lisa came in with their song Mountains, and we recorded Mountains that next day. And it was
Okay.
really cool because sat down with Wendy and Lisa. There's a horn bridge in the middle of that. So we started recording, and Prince. I don't know if Prince came up with the the horn part. But there wasn't, and he said, "Well, there's a break in here. Wendy and Lisa, why don't you work with Eric in Atlanta and come up with some music for in that break in there?" And so we sat down with them, and I had met them before, and they were great. What great musicians! All the Revolution people, musicians are. And we sat down and we came up with the horn bridge in that, and we recorded it, and that's the way it was.
Wow, Mountains was the first song you played on. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was my audition.
I
There was no
have
practicing.
I have a question. Well, since you brought up mountains, being a former trumpet player myself, I was
Oh,
very
cool.
elated when Prince added that element to his music because that was different. I thought that was cool. I was like, oh man, great! I get to try to copy some stuff now. But but you have a, I guess it's a brief horn solo on Venus de Milo. I know the instrumental. Do
Mm,
do
okay, I don't remember it, but if you say so.
yeah. Okay, yeah, it's kind of a piano instrumental, but like midway through it, there's like a horn break, like where you're playing.
Ah,
I was gonna ask me if
well,
you remember that.
listen to it again. I know
Yeah.
I'll listen to it again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll let you check it out. But yeah, but that was like, I thought that was really cool that when you got added like to the lineup, I thought that was really great. And for all
Yeah,
the trumpet
I'll tell
players, on behalf of all the trumpet players, thank you.
well, you're right. Hey, and now that you bring that up, something that I get from Prince fans all the time, and I think Prince fans were hesitant for the revolution, the counter revolution as we called it, with the horn players and Miko played guitar, and with Levi, and um, one of the things that they were hesitant about was adding horn parts to Let's Go Crazy, 1999, the classic things.
Mm.
And all of them said, which that was our purpose, that we never got in the way of the original song.
Mm.
We just added another color on top. That's what I think Eric and my perfect part of being a musician of the band is not to not to change up the song, but to add to it. And I think that's what we really felt good about.
Man, that's cool.
So
And
Ricky, so Ricky, I don't think that Matt played on Venice de Milo, at least according to Prince Vault, because it was orchestrated by Claire Fisher, and I think
Okay.
he was a trumpet player in Claire Fisher's orchestra.
Oh,
So I think that's
yeah,
the
that
reason
makes
Matt doesn't remember it.
Okay. Thank you
that
for
makes
that,
sense.
D'Angelo. Yeah.
I was also going to ask too, speaking of like when you start with Mountains and you start doing these songs in that time, in the real time, did you guys get to hear the music after it was done, or did you record it and then it just sort of went away for you and you start doing it in the rehearsals? I was curious, how do you guys get to hear the songs yourself?
Obviously, that Prince can play all the instruments, but he can't play trumpet and sax.
Mm.
So a lot of times he would have scratch tracks, rhythm tracks, maybe scratch vocals done, and he would call Eric and myself sometimes in the middle of the night because he would record. You talk about a work ethic. This guy was non-stop. I don't have to tell you guys that. I mean, he just amazing. Was amazing. So we would go in, and he would start to play the track as it went along. And so he would say, okay, here's the horn part. Okay, you guys got it? And he's gonna sing it. And it's no time to practice. I took a course in college where Eric and I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh called solfeggio. And what the instructor would be up there, and he would say, okay, now write this down. Right first, it was rhythm. He'd go, okay, write it down. And you scratch down the rhythm. Now he say, now write You're going to start on the letter C. You're going to start on the note C, and write these pitches down. Ba 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 ba, and you have to write those down. So that was great training for when Prince said, "Okay, now here's the horn part." Da da da. You know, when you write. So I sort of scratched things down. Eric was much better than me because he could remember all this stuff, and I sort of had to scratch things down and get it done. But we got it done, and Prince would just go on with the track all the way through. And so we never really listened to there wasn't a final product that we listened to until sometimes he would bring it into rehearsal with a van and say, "This is what I did last night. What do you think?"
Mhm.
And that was really cool because, you're hearing if it were anybody else in the world. And everyone would give their opinions of things. And of course, it was always smoking or slamming. It was great stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we did, that Eric and I recorded on, I think is still in the vault. You guys have always heard of the vault, and that stuff it's a lot is still there. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen, what the family's going to end up doing with it, but yeah, there was a lot of music that we wrote, and we never heard it until a lot of times till it came out in the album.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've been talking about, so just so you know, we've been reading this book by Duane Tudahl called Prince in the Studio Sessions, and we go week by week. And right now, Prince is gearing, in 1984, we're in 1984 right now, he's gearing up for the Purple Rain Tour. And every single day this week in October in 1984, he rehearsed. And I read in your book that sometimes you guys would rehearse for 14 hours. And that really was challenging for you as a trumpet player. And I never thought about that until I read this in your book about like the stamina you needed because like it's different when you're playing the keyboards, but the trumpet is so physical. So can you talk to us, like, how did you sustain like 14-hour rehearsals with Prince?
You know what? Thank you, D'Angelo, for saying how strenuous it is to play the trumpet. Because on behalf of other trumpet players, you are absolutely dead on it.
For sure.
But I will let Mr. Bliss go ahead and chime in and tell us how he did that.
Yeah, I'll tell you that what I wrote in my book was something that I had never thought about before. We record those 14 hours. Normally, we'd rehearse from say 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But those were production rehearsals for a tour like Son of the Times or something. And there's Paisley Park, and there's a lot of people there. There's sound people, there's light people, there's all our techs are there. And so these sessions would go on all day. And of course, you're not playing 14 hours continuously, but within that period, yes, you're expected to pick your instrument up and play what you need to play. And so what happened is I started missing notes after a while, and this didn't feel comfortable, and I couldn't figure it out. And later I did figure out, this is your embouchure and your lips. It's two different things. This is what I talk about in my book. Different things. Your embouchure or your face muscles here you need them to strengthen up. It's like a 10-mile runner. You don't start running 10 miles. You start running half a mile and work your way up. Same thing with this. Now, what happens is all of this gets stronger. Now, this is where the mouthpiece, this is what makes the sound, obviously, in a trumpet with the trumpet mouthpiece, and it vibrates. If you play too much, this turns into a piece of meat, and it turns into a piece of muscle, and it stops vibrating. And if you play 14 hours, that's what I know. That's what stops happening. And you start missing notes. This is good to grow up and be strong. But this, you need to be flexible all the time. That's what I talk about in my book. That I have facial embouchure exercises. They'll strengthen this, so you don't have to be when I was at Duquesne University, you're in a practice room, 5 foot by 8 foot practice room for hours and hours a day. And what happens is you keep playing and playing and playing, you're playing scales and everything, and that's what happens, that your ears hurt from you're in the practice room, and you're learning your scales and everything. Well, those scales and everything, you can learn those in the university library with what I'm talking about and things I have in my book, rather than keep banging away in a practice room. That's the whole concept of, mind, body, trumpet. Your mind works with your body, and it all comes into what your trumpet is, and that's what comes out of your trumpet, obviously.
So this was a word in your book that I could not pronounce, and I was like, "Can you help me with this?" Is it embouchure? I don't know how to pronounce that. And can you?
Embouchure.
And what is that?
Embouchure is your lips and all your muscles. This is all your embouchure.
Okay.
That's what you have to develop and keep in the right. And that's one of the other things that I didn't know at the time. Trumpet players, like everyone else, would like to go on vacation sometimes and go to the beach. Well, I used to take my trumpet with me, and I used to have to stay in a hotel. Everyone else is out on the beach having a great time, and I can't stop practicing now. I got to keep all this up. You can do that on the beach now with these facial exercises and keep this strong and keep this flexible. One reason I learned about that is that we would, sometimes I would not play for a week, and I would come back and, man, I'm hitting double high C's. I'm not a high note player, but I can hit double high C's. Well, why is that? Because this is all flexible. I still have this, but now this is flexible. So it's really a trade-off on, what you can do and what you shouldn't do.
Interesting.
So the subtitle of your book is first of all, the title is Mind, Body, Trumpet, but the subtitle is Practice Trumpet Without Your Trumpet. And I think that one of the things that I was reading and I didn't think about until I read this is that, I used to read about Charlie Parker, and Charlie Parker practiced a lot. So I was under the assumption that you needed to practice with your instrument for hours upon hours upon hours. But in your book, you're saying that you actually don't need to do that. Obviously, you need to practice, as you point out in your book, but you also need to have like rest in between all of those hours of practice with your instrument.
Yeah, exactly. If you practice your horn too much, then it sort of, becomes a fatigue. You get your instrument fatigue. Oh man, I got to do this now. I got to practice this page. Well, a lot of that you can do mentally with just looking at the music. That's what I have in here. I'm just looking at. I have fingering isometrics, so you don't have to have you use this for playing trumpet. Here's the C scale right there. Your chromatic scales. You can do all kinds of chromatic, and that's the mental part. That's the mind and the body. You don't need the trumpet for that. You can have the trumpet layer. You can learn your scales, breathing. Some of the breathing techniques that I have in there, I wish I would have known. In fact, I learned them from Wynton Marsalis. Wynton taught me a lot. I don't know. Do I have a quick minute to talk about Wynton?
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
You can be here as long as you want. We're not kicking you out.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what you have planned, so
No,
or anything.
yes, it's your house. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we were playing the Paris Jazz Festival, and we left Minneapolis, flew to New York. In New York, we got on a 747, and if you've ever been on a 747 up in the top area, there's just a small section up there, and that's where the band got to sit up there. And my seat was all the way in the back, and I said, "This is going to be cool. You put your headphones on, you can take this long flight, and it's going to be okay, And so we're sitting there, and it's still loading up, and a guy comes walking on with a saxophone case, a hard saxophone case. Oh, there must be some other musicians coming on here. So I did hear that Wynton's band is coming on because they're playing the Paris Jazz Festival at the same time that we're playing Paris at the theater that we're playing. So I said, well, this is cool. I'm going to go, I'll go introduce myself to the saxophone player. And I did that, and then I went and sat back down. And next thing I know, Wynton's coming on, and Wynton's seat was directly in front of my seat on a 747 flying. Now, what are the odds of that? So I introduced myself. Hey, I'm Prince's trumpet player. He said, that's cool, and we started talking about music, and it was like an 8-hour flight. And he was probably turned around in his seat, talking to me for 7 hours of that time.
Wow.
Talking about music and and his piano player was next to him. We were talking about, him playing New Orleans with that he used to play pop music, and he had to make a break, and he went into classical and went into jazz, and we just talked about all sorts of music and musicians, etc. So as we're leaving the plane, he says, "Hey, um, I'll give you the name of our hotel, and then we'll, come over and we'll hook up and we'll play." I said, "Yeah." Went wants me to call him and hook up and play. Well, I decided I got the phone number. I'm gonna try it. He answered the phone. He said, "Yeah, come over to the theater. We're doing a sound check. We're in rehearsal a little bit. Come over and then we'll play a little bit." Well, I did that, and I just had a little. When we're on the road, I have a little pocket trumpet. It's about this big, but it has all the same tubing as a regular trumpet. It's just collapsed, and so it was very easy to pack in your suitcase. So I took it over with me, and brought it out, and went and says, "Okay, well let's play a little bit." So I started to play a little bit. He says, "No, here, play my trumpet." Play his trumpet. Okay, well, it's an A, and it's the baddest trumpet in the world. I mean, it's just incredible. It's just the top of the sound that comes out of it. You get into brass players. It didn't have any lacquer on it. Lacquer will reduce the vibrations, and those type of things that when you're a serious player like Winton, they make a big difference. You can feel and what happens is the trumpet actually vibrates in your hands while you're playing, and it's really cool. It really does feel like you're part of the instrument. So anyways, Went said, "Yeah, play my instrument." I started playing it, and Winton plays. He can play all that stuff in a second. I picked up his trumpet, and I'm playing like the valves going, the valves going like it's not coming up. I keep playing all these notes on his trumpet, and when I play it, and the valves are coming up, but that's because the valves are so worn, like in a car, the pistons and they're worn to his fingers the way that he holds the trumpet, and that's why he can do all that. Obviously, the trumpet worked great, and as I got used to it after that. But he's the one that showed me how to breathe. You breathe from your stomach. You don't breathe from your chest. If you see your shoulders go up, you're breathing wrong. Your shoulder, you don't put air in your shoulders. You put air in your stomach. That's what gives you, even when you're talking just on regular life, you should breathe from your stomach. You don't put air in your lungs if you want to have fortitude, I suppose the word is.
What year was this kind of around when you was getting this? Yeah.
Oh, probably 86, 87.
Oh, wow. So you like, that's in my mind, that's like early, but it's like, man, you're at the point where you're chopping it up with other, essentially Jedis in that arena, people that are high level and getting your advice, sharing different things. That's amazing, man. Like, I mean, as a player yourself, like, how did you feel like, yeah, I'm here, I'm supposed to be here, type of thing, or were you still kind of like, wow, this is amazing type of deal? Like,
It really was amazing. Just to turn off on another story real quick. We did the Hit and Run tour. Was the first thing that we did with the parade band, and we did theaters, and of course we did First Avenue and those type of gigs, which I was sort of used to with Eric, and I would play those type of theater things. Not really the big arenas and things, but the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So the first big concert that I did with Prince, it was his birthday in Detroit, I think Cobo Hall, and I never experienced anything like that. You talk about first time of looking at something and getting into something. That was the time where all the lights went on in Cobo Hall, and the road crew came out with their flashlights, and they're leading us up onto the stage, and we're up on stage, and you can tell by the people where we were coming up on that side of the arena, the crowd just started going, it was a roar. And as we came up, there was a roar that went all the way around the theater. And I never experienced anything like that. No.
I can imagine how that must have felt almost scary, probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was very cool. And then people back then, they still had their the lights, the cigarette lighters.
Writers. Yeah.
Mm.
They didn't have the phones back then, but you
Right.
could see them lighting up all around the arena and said, "No, this is cool. This is what Eric and I wanted to do for many years." The experience that we were taking names and on the corner of the bands that we had. It was really trying to get record contracts and that, but we never got that far. But Eric and I developed our, I guess, musicianship those, and I think that's what Prince saw, that we did have the experience of being in live music
Mm.
and in the studio. So I think he saw that, and that's what he liked about it. Of course, Eric is the proverbial historian too, a musician, and he knows music inside and out.
Mm.
And Prince was very appreciative of Eric. He knew that Eric really knew what he was doing. And with Eric and I working together in the studio, which we played in the studio before, not to the level of working with Prince, but we played many times in the studio and as many gigs together and bands together that we worked pretty fast. And I think Prince like that. When you're working with Prince in the studio, he works so fast. I'm sure you've had people on that engineers or whatever that he'll play guitar solo and he'll say, "Okay, that's it. I need that. Now I have to do a vocal," and he does that, and it all comes out of one person, right? Now Prince is in with us, and he wants to get what's in his mind into our mind, and he doesn't want to wait a long time for you to understand what he's talking about. So you got to pick it up quick, and that's what I'm saying. Write the music down, and you don't take it home or practice it. You do it right then.
Mm.
He wants that to come out like he's playing the guitar. It's going right through his guitar. Well, he wants what's in his mind to go right through my trumpet,
Mm.
and that was really the challenge. And it always was a challenge working with him in the studio, but it always worked out great. Incredible person.
That's
Creativity was phenomenal.
well, I know since you say that, I have to ask. Power Fantastic.
Mm.
There were a lot of people for years thought that was Miles Davis playing, but that was you, and that's a testament. I know, like, to your playing. Was that one of those sessions where Prince kind of told you what he wanted? Kind of like how the solo to go, or did you just kind of just take the bull by the horns on that one and just kind of just do your thing?
Well, as I'm sure you've all listened to many times, he gave us some direction before we played the song, and I'm sure that you and a lot of Prince fans know that was we recorded that back in Prince's house.
Right.
That was in between before when we recorded at the warehouse in Paisley Park. We recorded at his house, and so we were all on headphones. Lisa was upstairs on the piano, and the rest of the band was downstairs in the studio. And as you know, you listen to what Prince says. Well, okay, I want to start out really soft, and I want to get this to build and build and build, and there are no mistakes. And that was all on us to do whatever we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're talking about the beginning of that, yeah, that was just things that I came up with. Now the that was, I think Prince came up with that. He said, "Here, play this here," and then he would motion to me again, and play it again, and then there was a bridge came on, and Eric played flute on it, and it really turned out very cool. And it's my honor to be have the sound, or people think that it was Miles Davis, because Miles is my again, I don't know how much time we have, but he's certainly my number one mentor.
Because I actually wanted you to talk about Kind of Blue. So just so you know, we talk about Prince, but we also talk about all kinds of music. And I think it's really important that we center Prince among other musicians. So we always talk about other musicians, but this is actually a really important album, and I know it's important to you. So I want you to talk to us why this album is important to you.
that album is probably the most. If people are listening to Miles Davis and they're new to jazz, that's probably the number one album. I think that's number one album, period, that Miles has ever sold, because it made such an impact and it had such a different attitude toward it. It was cool and smart, and it was smooth and very easy to listen to. And if you're a musician, you listen to it even harder, and you know the sound not only of Miles but Cannonball and Coltrane and all the musicians. Uh, they were just incredible musicians that were on that album. That if you haven't listened to a Miles album, pick that one up, and I think that you will enjoy it. And it's just classic.
So
Uh,
It's after
okay.
it's after bebop, so coming from coming to show up.
Yep.
It just swings and swings.
What's the way you just described the Miles Davis album, as you as somebody who's worked with Prince live in the studio, what would you say is the Prince album that's the equivalent to that in your mind?
good question, Michael Dean.
Wow. Um, I mean, that has developed on from where,
Like if it
like
was
from
the
the
one Prince
Night album
album
and moved
you would
on.
want somebody to listen to, what would be the Prince album that you would be like, this is Prince, you need to understand?
Yeah, I think the Median album would be Son Times album.
Okay.
It has the funky stuff in it. It has the arrangement type of things. It has Prince did something in the studio that a lot of musicians don't know about. Songs are usually AABA. That means you play the A part, you play the A part again, you play the B part, that's the bridge, and you play A part again. AABA, then you record over, do it over, and somebody take the solo, and that's not how Prince recorded though. Prince was a through composer, meaning that he would start at the beginning. He'd have an idea of how the song would progress from the way that he wanted it, but it wouldn't actually. He'd have breaks in it. He'd have different themes in it, and it wouldn't be an AABA. It might be an AABCAB. By the time that like, oh, you're recording like for 10 minutes. The songs you hear, they're not maybe the 5 minutes that you hear. They're probably the 15 minutes. There's some EP versions that are
Wow.
really cool because there's extra music on there and his extra thought of developing what he had started at the beginning, and he's developed it on.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know you came in the fold when for a lot of people they say it was, man, I guess a pivotal point in Prince's career, because he was growing musically, and then the sound was beginning to change. And I know you spoke about, I know how you and Eric, how sometimes people would wonder if you guys would kind of get in the way of the classic songs being played, but you recorded some songs that I can say that if the horns weren't there, they probably wouldn't be the same song that, say, we know and love like today. And as Prince was growing musically around this time, so like say when you were there, how much of that you think like you contributed? Because we know Eric talks about like giving him these Miles Davis albums and things, and him getting into that. And then of course I know with his dad being a jazz musician, that probably has some like some effect as well. But how much of you all trying to, I guess, to bring his horn lines to life, how many times or how often did you kind of like okay, like he kind of maps it out to you and you're like, all right, well, we're gonna put some more grease on it and make it, because like horn players, like like your parts are different than from, say, the keyboard player's part, or say the bass player's part. So where's yours? So how much of like the horn lines that's it, man, we heard, well, we're kind of like you and Eric doing your thing, I guess like taking Prince's kind of bare bare instruction, and then I guess you all adding to that.
Yeah, well, something that in the studio that Eric and I did, and we actually did it pretty well because we did it for many years, is that Prince would sing that horn part to us, but we would then harmonize it, and we would put it in a tessitura in an area of our horns that was a good area. It might be a high octaves or low octaves or mid octaves, and then we would try different harmonizations from then. So it really wasn't just horn. This wasn't keyboard parts that we were playing. You know, it was say in Housequake. You know,
Yeah.
well, that's not a keyboard part. You know, the way we played that, and I'm sure that Prince began singing that to us, and then we sort of interpreted what he had said or sang to us and harmonized it or played it unison or whatever, you know, we felt appropriate. And you know, Prince always agreed with us. Something that Prince said one time, I can't believe he said it, but he said, you know, listening to you two, I can't believe that there's any two other. I never heard two people play as well together as you two. And he said that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, it is pretty cool. So one thing I want to point out, again, because we are here for the book, and I want to make sure that I put the URL where you can purchase Atlanta Bliss's brand new book, hot off the presses. You can buy it from atlantabliss.com/shop. But one of the things that I was surprised about in the book was the pictures. And this is probably my favorite spread. Can you tell people what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, actually, the color photo there is a band that I had in Pittsburgh. It was called the Parker Brothers. It was the house band of a club called Mount Lebanon. It was a suburb of Pittsburgh, and it was a club called the Boardwalk. And they had a theme of the Monopoly game. And when you walked in there, there was, you know, all the different pictures and the game pieces, you know, those type of things on the wall. And so I was going to make Eric and I played the club many years before that. And they decided they wanted, this was after Eric and I split up, he went to play with Billy Price. And then I started this band, the house band, at the Boardwalk. And that was my band, great musicians. And we played everything from, we played Michael Jackson, and we played Earth, Wind and Fire, and we played Kool and the Gang, you know, all the great bands. And then from there, that's when I moved to Atlanta after that. And that's when I got the call. And Eric was still playing all the time with Billy Price and the Rhythm Kings. And I'm sure you've heard about that and the stories with that. And great band also. Billy is still playing around Pittsburgh and an incredible musician, singer, songwriter.
Someone in the chat.
That was that band.
Yeah, Lisa says that they saw Parker Brothers several times. So you have someone listening that has seen some Parker Brothers shows, which is amazing.
Oh,
Lisa L.
Oh, there's my comments. Okay. Yeah, Lisa L. So different than original Rehearsals. Oh, saw Parker Brothers several times. Cool.
That's a trip.
And the other pictures in there that you had were from on the corner. Alki Stereopolis Quintet. Eric's in there. I think he's on the side there. Let me get that picture. Make sure. I'm sure you can tell who Eric is on there.
Yes, I could tell.
You could tell Eric on there.
Yeah.
Eric's on the far left side.
Yep.
And he has his beard there and red hair at the time. And that was a great band too. Alki Stereopolis is a great musician. I just talked to him recently, and we're still great friends. After that is on the corner, and that picture there, you can see Eric in the middle there, and me to his left.
Oh, that's Eric in the middle?
Yeah, that's Eric.
With his baritone. Yeah, with his baritone.
Y'all was cold.
Then the next page is Take a Name band. That's two pictures. Yeah.
It's hard to figure out where I am, but that's the reason why you need to get the book, so you can actually look at the pictures. So I don't want to show that much anyway, so you can actually buy the book, because it's a really awesome book, and there are actually a lot of photos in here that I really appreciated. One of the photos that I love seeing was, and I'm not going to show it so that people can see it for themselves, was the wall in your home with all of your, gold records and everything. So do you still live in Pennsylvania, or?
Yeah, that's my trophy room, I suppose you would call it. And I've got the records up there, and the Grammy, and the behind glass, and that type of thing. And
Wow.
yeah, it's something that I'm proud of.
Uh, couple just observation questions. Looking behind you, I can see the history of just some things that you're into. I can see those Macintoshes up there on the top. I see the sound rack or something over there. The onboard. Yeah, I see. Is that vinyl records behind you?
Oh yeah, some of them.
Yeah, like what are you? So let me ask you: Are you a tech guy, or are you? Obviously, you're into music. You're a musician. But like, what are some of the? If you were to pull out something behind you, like, yo, this is something that means so much to me. Like, what are some of the things that you are that are treasures for you?
Well, actually, see all this section here?
Mm-hmm.
This is all Prince stuff. Here's Duane's book.
Like Duane's book, yes. Mm-hmm.
Here's Pierre Nelson's book. These are the documentaries by Pierre Nelson. This is History of Rock and Roll, Prince stuff in there.
Wow.
These are the, Eric and I did an interview on Jazz Times. In Jazz Times, it was their 50th year, and they interviewed Eric and I because they were talking about Prince and Miles. So that was very cool. And then, of course, the People magazine, and and all sorts of magazines. And yeah, that's all the Prince stuff, and CDs, and cassettes, and yeah, lots of stuff. And my tech guy, I think I'd like to think I am, because but not when you go with the techs with Prince, they know their stuff.
Interesting.
I started with the Macs that are up there on top, the Max Pluses up there on top. Those are some of the first Macs that came out, and I really like that stuff. And I'm still a Mac guy, but I don't know about all that stuff now. Now I just push buttons, like you're talking about earlier. I'm not really a tech guy, but one of the things that I sort of did start up when Miles played. In fact, he played. We played the. He came in for that New Year's party at Paisley Park.
Yeah.
And I had met Miles prior to that, and one of his techs came up. Maybe his manager came up to me and said, "Hey, for sound check, would you check Miles's gear out and make sure it all works, because he might play with you tonight?" I said, "Oh, yes, I should." So he had a wraparound microphone. It wrapped around on his bell, right, and he had a wireless setup. And that's the same thing that I had with mine, but I matched mine sort of after what Miles had. And so that's what, and this was before. Now everybody, all the horn players, seem they have mics on their horns now. You don't play into a microphone, it's clip on, but they didn't have back then. So I had an old antenna that telescoping antenna, and I attached that to my trumpet and came out, wrapped it around. I bent it real easily. I put a microphone on the end of that, and pretty crude, but it worked. So I was looking forward to playing Miles' stuff, and so I played it. And he was playing some old gear, some old ratty gear. And I said, it worked. But later I talked to Miles, and I said, you know what? You're going to talk to somebody, talk to your tech people, and get them into some other stuff. It was actually, I guess I can say it was NADY gear. NADY is gear that all guitar players have, wireless guitar players have. Well, they was using the same thing for trumpet players with microphones. And I was using some Sennheiser, a Sennheiser system, and the quality coming out was much better than the NADY. The microphones made for horn players. In fact, they were was over in Europe one time, and Sennheiser came out to where we were playing, and they wanted to make sure that everything that I was using was cool. So I talked to them, and I said, well, I'm getting some distortion on here when I play loud or playing some high notes. it sounded like there was some distortion there. Well, they came in and they patted it down for me, and it was very cool because that was when horn mics, wraparound mics were really starting then, and so that's why I love doing that kind of stuff, and so that's sort of the tech part of me that you were talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting that you guys are at the level. I was gonna say you guys are at the level where the tech people are coming to you to sort of like make sure that you got the appropriate gear and it's all working properly.
Right, and you were backed up. There was 2 and 3 systems. Same as every. You probably know this too. That when we go out and play a tour, there is there's one piano on stage, but guess what? There's another one right in back in case that one breaks. Those techs are ready to jump in there and put another one up there. The keyboard goes down. Well, there's another one right in the back that will go up and be replaced with that. There was one. I don't know if we want to get into it. When I was talking with Miles, he was in the warehouse, and he was saying, I was sitting beside him, and he's saying, what's that keyboard up there? And it was a new synthesizer that was just out. It was a new sampler that was out. And I said, that's a sampler that Prince has. It was $30,000 back at the time. Well, Prince would take that on tour with him too. And guess what? He'd have another one in the back too. In case that one breaks down, he's got another one.
Man, it was like that.
Yeah. And there's another drum set. And believe me, there's another drum machine behind. If the drum machine goes down, then you need the sounds that come off of that drum machine. It might not be the the sound that Sheila or Bobby are playing the drums, but some of them are keying some other different sounds. So those sounds have to be somewhere, and you have to have a backup for those sounds because there's always like a car. It's going to break down.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. So there's a couple questions I want to ask from the chat. So this is from D68A. What make of trumpet does Matt like best? I don't know how to pronounce some of these, so maybe you know. Getson or Monet or.
Well, yeah, I don't see the name. Well, I have a couple Clicchios, they're called. It's the last handmade trumpets in the country, in the world. No, in the country, not the world. And I'm not even sure they're really that many made anymore. He had died. Mr. Clicchio, Dominic, died several years ago, and I think his son took over, and I think he's still producing some trumpets. In fact, I just joined some trumpet websites, and I'm going to get into that and get back into those guys in the trumpets. Yes, the Clicchio, Callillichio.
Thank you. And a song that keeps coming up in the chat is Another Love, a Hole in Your Head, from Parade. Do you have any memories from recording that amazing bridge during that 12-inch?
Yeah, well, that amazing bridge is Eric Reeves at his best. Same thing as Rock Hard and the Funky Place. Eric, when we would play in our band in Pittsburgh, Eric would like to challenge not just us, but challenge himself. And in writing these things, because he would write them and then the whole thing there. And I still remember that in Rock Hard, and in Sunset Sound, we were recording that. Eric brought that in, put it in front of me, and I said, "Whoa!" And the tempo was pretty moving, and that was one of the times where Eric, can we record this tomorrow? and he said, "Yeah, we'll record it tomorrow." And so we came. I spent all night just practicing that. That is something that you have to practice. That's like playing, being a trumpet player. You know what Donna Lee is. And that's one thing I warmed up on was Charlie Parker's Donna Lee. And that's, there's 1,000 notes in that. And I figured if I can play that before I go out and play in front of 20,000 people, then it's cool.
Question.
I better do something else.
Question about that. Going back to that particular line, I think we might ask this about to Eric as well. Did you guys know? Did you know? Like, I sound like you did. Like, how like crazy that was. Like, it was. I remember hearing it for the first time. I was just like, "What?" Like, it was so unexpected to hear in Prince's music, and the fact that it was so complex, but it was so funky. It was just like, it was like, you know, it was just a magic weapon or something. The question is, because it's not on the album version. Was this done afterwards? Like a remix or something? Or was it done originally and was left off?
No, I think we're going to the studio after that. I think Prince wanted to do a dance version, 12-inch.
Okay.
And that's where we added that. Eric added that on. And he liked to put those horn bridges on, and you know, we're just not going to sit there and play whole notes, you know, and that doesn't work. You know, you got to play something that's a little challenging, and I think that's what Prince liked about it too, that it was something different. You know, it wasn't anything like he had before, and he liked it.
Wow. Even when you do it live in the Sign of the Times, when they throw that, is it like take the place of your man, so that breakdown toward the end? And you guys doing it. I just remember seeing that when I saw the movie. I was just like, "Are you kidding?" Like, it was just like the level of musicianship y'all had. It was just spectacular, man. Like, I hope y'all felt that from the audience. Like, it was just amazing.
Well, that's Eric. Eric is an incredible writer. He's written, you know, he can write some very emotional things like what's in there, some very slow things that just create to, like, they develop. You know, it's just not like play the part and you're done. You know, it really has. And Prince did give us time to develop things. It just wasn't like, okay, here's the horns. Okay, get out of here. Okay, the horns, get out of here. It was like part of the band.
What was the I'm sorry. You talked about Power Fantastic, you know, and we got to finally hear sort of the intro part. And then what was though the vibe? Like, what happens after you record something like that? Are you guys just like,
yeah,
do we play it back, or is it like, or do you kind of shift out and he moves on to something else? I just, from your perspective, what's the vibe in the studio? You know, is it really calm, or is it like, man, we're hyped up, or very?
Yeah, we nailed that. Yeah, it was like,
yeah.
Well, in that particular song, it wasn't like we really didn't know what to expect with it. You know, it was something that was really developed its own persona, musical persona within itself. We didn't know that it was going to be, you know, it really is, music is color. Color is music. That has so many colors in it. It has so many dynamics in it. It has loud things in it. It has soft things in it. It has fast things in it. It has slow things in it. And we didn't know that was going to happen at the time. It was just like Prince gave us that instruction in the beginning. And it was like, well, you probably remember what he said on there. He said, this is just the first take. You know, we might do many more. Well, that was the first take. And he felt so comfortable with it. We said, well, okay, cool. We're cool with it too then. You know, that's what he wanted. That's what the composer wanted. And then we listened to it after that. And it was you know, I tell everyone that's a song that, you know, you want to turn the lights on at nighttime and light a couple candles and just put your feet up and put the headphones on. And it will just take you someplace that you haven't been before. You don't need drugs or anything, man. It's going to take you there.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all were the one take band on that one.
It was. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about large
room with no lights?
Yeah. Yes.
Large room with no lights. Yeah, I think that was also around that time too. I don't remember. I don't think he gave us any direction on that. That just started, and Eric and I put some horn parts to that, and Eric played an incredible solo on that. If you all haven't heard that song, Eric played an incredible solo on that. Go back and listen to it.
For sure. So this is one of the pictures that you have in the book, and it's one of my favorite pictures. To be honest, anytime I think of Eric, I think of you, and anytime I think of you, I think of Eric. So This picture, I think, really represents that. I wanted to know if you don't mind kind of speaking a little bit about rehearsing or touring for Sign of the Times versus Love Sexy. Can you kind of talk to us about the difference between the two? I know we talked to Eric last year about this, and for Eric, because Love Sexy was so choreographed because of the way the stage was set up, it seems like you guys maybe had more freedom with Sign of the Times, but can you just talk to us about rehearsals or the live show of Sign of the Times versus Love Sexy?
I think with Love Sexy, there was a more of a story was that Prince tried to portray there, I suppose is the word. And with Sign of the Times, from what I think, it was just all music. And the musicians we had at that time, and the dancers with the three guys that we have with Jerome and Wally and Brooks, and with Kat, which we all have to bow our heads to Kat one time for her recent passing. And I know she left some kids, and that's pretty tough on them, I'm sure. But she was an incredible and a great added bonus to Prince. She was, and I'm sure did you ever speak with her on this?
Yes, actually, we spoke with Kat in person. Luckily, we did like a Love Sexy symposium in New York, and we were able to get Kat and Dr. Fink and Ingrid. So it was just incredible to be able to fellowship with her. Like I had brunch with her. And I actually have on, I don't know if you guys can see right now, I'll see if I can show you, but I actually have on a Kat shirt right now because she's so dearly missed. So
she is. Yeah, she was. You talk about a talent. She just has raw talent. And she said that her dream was always to work with Prince. Well, her dream came true. Eric and I, I'm sure you talked to Eric too. It's never a dream of ours to play with Prince, but it certainly turned a dream after that. That hey, this is very cool. He's taken us to the level that we wanted to get to. Well, Kat, it took her dream came true, and she did an incredible job. And so she gave dance steps to Prince that he never envisioned, and same thing, he gave dance steps to her that she never envisioned. They both played off each other so well. It was just incredible.
That's
and even with Bonnie, got to think about Bonnie too. Bonnie Boyer.
Yes.
Bonnie was what a great talent and fun gal she was. If you ever wanted to hear a joke or you wanted to get a smile, and let alone her great voice, boy, she was talk about Aretha or something, man. That's where she got her stuff. And going back to church, there's some rehearsals and things that she just sing.
Wow.
No, she would sing.
Yes.
I don't know how you spell that, but she could sing.
That's what's up. I have to ask. Maybe it's been asked already, but
Sure.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I have to ask. I know you didn't want to get in on any of the Madhouse action. I know the Prince ever tell you why he never wanted the trumpet sound on the Madhouse stuff, or
I was on the first album. It was on
6.5.
first album, so on the 6.5.
Yeah.
And then played on the first Madhouse on the Madhouse album after that. The following albums, those were really gearing towards Eric, and that was his thing, and that was Eric's album. So it wasn't like it was both our albums. That was Eric's album, his choice and Prince's.
Yeah.
That was fine. Some great music.
So,
yeah, indeed.
So one of the things, I don't know how much time you have, Matt, but I hope that could you spend time with us maybe up until 2:30, like 40 more minutes? Do you have that or no?
If you got enough to talk about, sure.
Okay, all right. So I do. We had Eric on last year because we really wanted to talk about Times Squared, and I think that Times Squared doesn't get talked about enough, because I think it's a really amazing album. And I know that you co-wrote a song, or rather what Eric said, that he transcribed one of your lines from a song that you wrote a long time ago and put it within this song called Lines, because you're not actually performing on Lines. But you did perform on all of these other songs on Times Square, Andorra, Night Out, Overnight, Every Night, Easy Does It, Kenya, and Once Upon a Time. And I don't know, like, the last time you listened to this record, so I have some musical snippets, and I want to play some of them for you. And if I just let me know, like, what comes up for you when you hear these songs. Now, one of my favorite songs off of Times Square is Kenya. So I'm going to play a little bit of it here. So one of the reasons why this is so phenomenal for me, first of all, is Eric Leeds and you. Anytime you guys are together, it's just magic for me. But also you have Prince on drums and you have Larry Frantangelo on percussion. Do you remember recording this song? And can you tell us anything that you remember about doing so?
Yeah, actually, that song, I don't know if Eric had played his solos things on top of that, but Eric's solo on that is just incredible. But only the thing that outshines, if anything can outshine that, is his writing that he had for me to do those horn parts. And the horn parts that we had on there, those are horn parts of Duke Ellington in the 2000s, the 1990s. You know, he was inspired, I'm sure, by Duke's writing, because that's with the drums that he has in there. And you know, we had with my trumpet, if you put your hand in front of the trumpet, that's how you got to whack, 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 whack. Well, that's Duke Ellington stuff. And let alone the horn parts, the way they're written, that's Duke Ellington stuff. And that's Eric's musicianship coming out with the writing. And then he puts his horn parts, his solo parts on top of that. There's colors on top of colors, and it's just incredible. And it's always a challenge to not only to play Eric's parts, but like you say, and he might be listening now, and he knows that I say this all the time. It's a challenge to read his parts because his writing is just awful. On music, it's on his staff's reading music, and he knows that. But after all these years, I can read it, you know, and it's always a challenge, but it's always great to play with him. You know, when you walk in the studio with Eric, you got to be in your game. You know, there's no time to play. You know, it's time that you bring your horn and you say, okay, I got to put my glasses on or whatever, and we're going to it. And then you put Prince on top of that. Yeah, it can make you a little. Well, that's what I tell everybody. If you're the best musician in the band, you're probably not learning a lot because there's no one pushing you. You put someone behind you like Prince that's pushing you to be the best that you can be, to quote the army or whatever that was. And of course you got to challenge yourself. You can't be scared to do it. You can't be scared to get in front of 20, 40, 50, 60,000 people at one time, which I, Rick and I had never done that prior to working with Prince, but it was a challenge and that we loved. You get to do that, and it's like an opportunity of lifetime just to do it once. And we did it hundreds of times, and then the after shows and everything. I don't know if you want to get into after shows. That's
Oh,
another.
please.
Yes, of course. We'd love to hear about it. That's my favorite, actually, and the Love Sexy after shows in particular, because they were.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's when we would they were on the Love Sexy tour, and we even Sound of the Times or any of those. Bands normally go in, they do a sound check, and they say, okay, my guitar's working, the microphone's working, the drums are all set the way I want them, and where you're going to stand and where you're going to move around, whatever. Okay, see, I'm going to have something to eat and be back later. Well, that's not what you do with Prince. He would have, they'd say, okay, we're going to have sound check. Well, sound check could mean a jam session for an hour, 2 hours. It could mean sometimes a recording session. Sometimes it could mean something that he just wanted to play. When he's calling out, let's start we're going to start with this groove right here and let's see what happens. And meanwhile, all the techs are doing their job. They're making sure that all the microphones are working, all the keyboards are working, and that's how they did it. And so it was always a challenge to do sound checks with him, and they were good, like I said, turn into recording sessions. So it's always a challenge. But the difference so we did the sound check, and we did the show. Of course, the show is in front of 20 to 50,000 people, whatever. And then that show, sometimes in the rehearsals or in the sound checks, we would change up some of the show too. It wasn't like some bands, they start with okay, here's our show that we're going to have on the tour, and they do that, and they don't deviate from that at all. And this is it. But that's not what happened with Prince. There could be anything change at any time. A new song, a new intro, a new way to get from one song to a transitional part from one song to another song, and you had to be ready to do that night. It wasn't take it home and memorize it. You had to memorize it. There was no choice. So and from there, so that was the shows were. Love Sexy show was about 90%, maybe 85% the same all the time. But then he would want to go and play an after show. And the after shows, of course, would always be announced that day or something. They'd be sold out in a couple of minutes, and anywhere from like 200 people to maybe 300 people is very small. And those were the after shows were the times that Prince would just have that's his playtime. He would we'd start with a song. It might be a cover tune. Sometimes we did Pick Up the Pieces from Average White Band. Sometimes we do an Aretha song. Sometimes we do a James song. And sometimes we do a Prince song and we expand on it with extra solos. So you have to be ready to take a solo at any time too, even though you may never have played a solo on a song like in a studio or on the major show. You could be called for a solo during one of these after shows. Wow. And sometimes he would change the key of things, and of course he'd always have his hand signals, and you never could take even on the stage shows. We wouldn't just about never take our eyes off of Prince, because he's always directing us on something. It might change. So something might be louder, softer. He might do an audible. He might just do a hand motion. But we're all very schooled because we did rehearse as a band, and we did know what he was talking about. And I can't say we read his mind, but we tried to same as in the studio, we tried to keep up with him and his mind. You couldn't slack off. You couldn't look at this girl over. Hey, look, let me go over and smile at this girl. You couldn't do that. So you always had to concentrate on what you're doing. You're there to play music, and that's what we did.
What was
Um,
the when you say challenging? Like, it's one thing to say that. What did that feel like from you as the musician? Like, when you say you had to memorize these parts, did you feel like you had enough time to get it right, or was it stressful to like I gotta really, you know, dial in, or you felt like you were capable of doing whatever you asked?
Tell you what, Levi and Miko, and I'm sure Sheila and the other players, well, especially a lot of those guys, they go to music school like Eric and I.
Mm,
They grew up playing the music and learning it from the street, and that's how you played. Someone sang something to you, and you could play it right then, and you could remember it because
mm,
that's the way you were schooled, and they were great at that. Now I came from the music school sense, and well, okay, I'm going to write down what you just said, and if I have to memorize it, well, okay, then okay, I think I got it.
mm.
Well, that's why I was a little more hesitant than I'm sure Miko and Levi and everyone else was on things because they learned that. They learned how that's how Prince did things too. You sing it to him, you play it to him, he's gonna play right back and he's gonna remember it.
Mm,
I had to work a little more harder at that because I came from a different school, obviously.
interesting.
speaking of after shows, there's one after show, um, and maybe D'Angelo and Mike can help me with it. I think it's the 88 show, but on this particular after show gig, Eric wasn't there, and
Oh, small club.
small club,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. It was in the Hague, I think we were at.
yeah, but you took a
Yeah.
solo on Housequake that is one for the record books.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if you
I'll
remember
tell you.
that. I don't know if you remember that
Well,
out of all the solos you're taking, but that solo, like I heard the song differently than what we had been hearing, from the Sign of Times film and live. But when you all did it at the small club gig and said you took a trumpet solo, I thought that added a whole new dimension to it. But it was really good.
yeah, that's something that doing that type of gig, the after show gigs, that you could be a little more open and a little more um, you could expand on the solo a little bit more. You could develop a solo a little bit more. Whereas during a show, they want to hear almost the solo that you played. When that was what Prince liked about playing the after shows is he could play whatever he wanted to and expand on things that he could not do in a show. So thank you for that compliment. A quick story about the solo I did play on Housequake on the record. Eric and I were, I think it was November or something, and he gave us a time off. We're going to Thanksgiving, so I'm going back to Pittsburgh with my family, and I don't know if we had a week or something off, and maybe 2 weeks, and I'm back there, and I got a phone call from Eric. Says, "Hey, Princess called. We're gonna fly tomorrow to go to Los Angeles to me and Sunset Sound and record." I said, "Well, okay, you got to go." So I went there, and we got in the studio, and Prince has Housequake there. We'd never heard it before. So we're playing the horn parts, and Prince is singing the horn parts to us and everything. He says, "Okay, now I want a trumpet solo on here." And no, I think he was doing some overdubs on it because I think we did the horn parts on it already. And so he was just he said, "Okay, I want a trumpet solo here." And I said, "Okay." And I played a solo, and it took like 3 minutes, first take. And he said, "Okay, you go home now." We just got there in the studio. 3 minutes, okay, you're done. But that's the way he was. He would have you just fly in for
Wow.
one thing, but that's not what we just did. In fact, that's when I think we recorded Rock Hard and did some other things too. But that's you did the gig. That's what I wanted, and so yeah, that was a neat experience. He said, "Okay, you can go home."
I mean, I
I
just
said,
gotta ask,
"Hey,
what did you feel like when you first heard the song like Housequake? When you were like first hearing, like, are you like, whoa, like, are you doing this? Like, okay, like, I mean, just
yeah." I'll tell you what I thought. I think we were over in Europe when Sign of the Times came out big, and they started putting the singles out. And I was hoping that Sign of the Times single would come out. That would be, but I don't think that ever took off, or that maybe the record company didn't push that as far as a hit single. But I always thought it was the concept of housequake. When that says a lot right there. We're going to have a party. No, we're not going to have a party. We're going to have a housequake.
Yeah.
So
That had
there's
been a whole new catchphrase.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat from Chack Attack, and they want to know, do you remember anything from the Batman sessions? I know you were on Trust, and my question is, did you play on Party Man or not?
I'd have to look on the credits to do that. What Eric and I played on a lot of those tracks, and it ended up, I don't know why, but he used our tracks and keyed other instruments with them.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It didn't sound like a trumpet and a sax anymore. He might have had us play like a clarinet or some different instrument. He used our instruments to key those instruments. So I might have been on there as far as the recording aspect of it, but not as a trumpet. It didn't come out as a trumpet.
Interesting. Here's another question from the chat. How many songs is Bliss aware of that he recorded that was not released? This is a question that comes up a lot. And what was his favorite of those that were not released, if you remember? That means a lot.
I'd have to look at the songs that we had recorded. I would say that the ones that I'm on, Eric recorded on, I think, more than I did. Like sometimes he would just want to flute on something, or there's a sax on something. But the things that I did, I'm guessing that 60 to 75% are already out. There might be 25% or something that are still not out in the haven't been released because they weren't finished.
Yeah. So we're almost at the end, but I want to ask you some questions about other musicians other than Prince, because again, we talk about that. And we've been talking a lot about James Brown. And this is one of my favorite James Brown performances. It's like from the 70s Love Power piece with Bootsy and his brother Catfish. So I'm curious, did you listen to the James Brown JBs growing up? Did any of those horn players influence your style of playing? I'm curious.
Our horn parts, when Eric and I would play, in fact, we played some of James's songs when we had our bands with On the Corner and Taking Names. Eric and, of course, his brother Alan are the consummate James fans. Of course, Alan was James' road manager. So he had a lot of influence over the songs that we would play in the bands that we would have there. So, I certainly knew Maceo and Fred, and for years and years, and to be able to get to know them a little bit and play with them was just incredible. It was like, and I played with Miles. We only have a couple minutes left. I got to tell you my Miles story. We were in studio. We heard Miles was coming in the studio, and or into the rehearsal. This back in the warehouse, and so I wanted to be there if Miles was coming. So I sat down on the chair when you come into the warehouse, and Prince was up. He was playing a drum track. He was recording a drum track, and up on the stage, Miles came walking in, and he walked up to Prince, and Prince stopped. He went up and shook his hand, and Prince said, "Hang on a minute. I want to finish this track, and we'll get together and we'll hang out." Well, Miles came down and sat on the bar stool right next to me. And I said, "Oh my, this is just incredible. This is Miles, my main mentor." And he reached his hand over to me. He shook my hand. He said, "Now I have to do my imitation, Miles Davis, right?" He said, "My name's Miles Davis." And I said, "Oh, yeah, my name's Atlanta Bliss. I'm Prince's trumpet player." And he said, "Hey, what you played in that last record? Miles liked what I played?" Back then, Miles didn't like what anybody played. So that was the ultimate in my career is peaked right there. So yeah, I got to speak to him about a little bit about the Fairlight when I talked about the sampler that they had used and all the drum machines and everything he was using, and we had a great conversation. But that was I had to get that in about my Prince story with
Of
a Miles
course,
story.
of
Incredible.
course. So I just have two more records that I just want. It's so Lee Morgan, Other Than You, is my favorite trumpet player, and this is my one of my favorite albums of all time, Search for the New Land. So I was just curious, are
Oh
you a
yeah.
Lee Morgan fan?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've listened to Lee Morgan for years, and Donald Byrd. Have you listened to Donald Byrd?
Yes, that was the
Donald Byrd,
other person I was going to ask you about, Donald Byrd.
yeah, Donald Byrd and the Blackbirds. Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. All those were influences on my playing. That loved all that stuff.
Awesome.
Oh,
Go ahead, Lurky.
no, I was gonna say that. I mean, since y'all talking about trumpet players, I was gonna say, what'd you think of Roy Hargrove?
Oh yeah, yeah. Great player, and yeah, he was an influence for me for many years too, and made a lot of great music.
Yeah.
What a guy! Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was a step up into the new generation of horn players, trumpet players.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yes, most
a lot
definitely.
of colors in his playing. Yeah.
So we want to thank you so much, Atlanta Bliss, for coming on and talking to us. And we want to make sure that everybody, how many bodies? Everybody and buys the Mind Body Trumpet book. And also there's a couple of the songs that one of the songs we listened to earlier. One is, we played Space, blanking,
It's in time.
Space and Time as well. And then there's also Rainforest.
Rainforest, yeah.
Yes. So you can also purchase both of those at atlantabliss.com/shop. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me one more thing. You know, I wrote this book as being a music teacher, educator for many years. So that's what it was really written for. And I really wanted to add and maybe give it some credibility. And it turned out to be a friend of mine, Father Fred Shaheen, we did an interview many years ago. And I thought, well, let me intersperse that interview, which is a long interview about my career and working with Prince and everything, intersperse that in the book. I don't want this to be a Prince book per se. This is for trumpet players, but it has a lot of Prince things in there. And his interview is just incredible guy. He's a big Prince fan, and did a nice job.
Yeah, he
So
really.
it's just not written. It's just not a trumpet book, but it's not a Prince book either. So it's everything straight.
Yeah, I love that it's a combination. To be honest, it's more Prince in here than I thought it was going to be. And another thing that I really loved was it's labeled your most memorable musical moments, which is on the last page of the book. And I think it's a beautiful book. And I love that you get your signature on the back cover. And I really hope that everyone will purchase this. But obviously, we want you to buy it for yourselves, but if you have any young musicians in your life, or you want to encourage young people to pick up an instrument, the trumpet is an amazing instrument. So please buy them for your aspiring musicians and your family. Christmas is coming up. Thanksgiving is coming up when we're with our families. So definitely, purchase one for yourself, but purchase one for an inspiring musician in your life for sure.
Yes.
There are some tips. Some of those things you can use as beginners. Those are just beginners. Those aren't professional tips. They'll really help you as being a beginner player. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make sure I give you your flowers. I know I might speak for a lot of people, but I love to hear how you articulate the joys of being a musician, and like the way you talked about Miles, and just seeing your journey of how you took your music, you and Eric, what you guys are doing as brothers, and have had this career. But I just want to tell you, man, like for a kid like me, back when I was a kid, like your music and the way that you play, man, help open the door for me to get into other types of music, like listening to jazz. And when Prince started doing that, and I really started paying attention to what you and Eric was doing, I was like, yo, those dudes are dope. Like, I need to know more about this. And it just opened my ear to be more hungry to hear that other types of music. And so, man, I just say thank you. Like, we don't normally get to see people like you who played a part in this other thing. But man, the part that you played meant a lot to us. So I just hope that you really understand that, man. Like, it's an honor to have you on here and to hear, finally hear you. I mean, I've talked to you before, but it's always an honor, man. So I just want you to understand, like, we love what you have done, man. And you've done a great job for music, man. So salute to you.
Thank you for that.
Indeed.
But thank you. First, we have to say thank you to Prince. Prince is the one that pulled it all together.
For sure.
You know, he's the one that saw multiple talents, just not Eric and I. You know, he saw multiple talents, and he's real demand. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. We just want to make sure you are important, man. We
well, I'm glad we opened your ears up, and maybe we opened some more ears up. That's very cool. Thank you for saying that.
Now, I know I've said this to you before, but I'm going to tell you this again. And I know that you might think that this is blasphemous, but this is truly from my heart. You are our Miles Davis. And I want you to know that, because you are. We know your trumpet lines on the back of our hands. They are inscribed in our hearts. So I really want you to know that. And thank you so much for coming on.
How high a compliment I couldn't ask. Thank you. That's all to say. Great compliments. Thank you very much.
All
it's
right.
Great to be on here with all of you. And come back anytime. I'll be here and Cam's the best. Your husband's the best. So goes to him. He was able to give me some music for many years now, and I still have it and listen to it, and he's the best. And he's a great musician too.
Thank you so much. And we would love to have you back on with Eric again, because that'd be fun. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. So whenever you are able to do it, we'd love to have you back on. So again, everybody, how many bodies? Everybody. Body Trumpet, AtlantaBliss.com/shop. Not only the book, but the 2 tunes. And you heard a little bit of one of them at the top of the hour that we loved. So go ahead and make the contribution to buy the book and the songs. All right. So
thank you all. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, man. Bye-bye.
All right. So we are mad over, and which is totally fine. And I'm not going to do what I normally do. So just take us out, Michael Dean.
Well, what an unexpected treasure we had today. Thank you to Mr. Matt Atlanta Bliss. Man, it was great. Learned a lot, and just to hear the joy in his voice as he talks about, his life and musicianship. That's the blessing, man. So thank you to him. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys always contribute, make this show what it is. Thank you to Mr. Ricky for joining us today.
Had to,
sir.
You know what I'm saying?
And also salute to Seeley out there. He was in the chat for a second.
Yeah.
And salute to D'Angelo as well. And work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.